My mission was to set them up in the lobbies. The explosive was brought in shampoo and deodorant bottles. I put this device in the lobby. They asked me to set up more bombs. July 2010, the piece that completes the puzzle of a terrorist chapter in a story that started 20 years back. Do you know where you are? Where you are now? Not exactly. But you know you're not in Venezuela. Yes. You know that you're in Cuba where you have been brought by Venezuelan officials? Yes, sir. In the early 1990s, the world experienced the consequences of the demise of the socialist community in Eastern Europe and the collapse of the Soviet Union. This was the international scenario the US took advantage of to isolate Cuba and reproduce the strategies applied against European socialism. On August 23, 1993, the voice of the Cuban National Front broadcast from Puerto Rico to Cuba, urging actions against the life of the commander-in-chief and sabotage of economically crucial objectives with the assurance of domestic support. The White House of George Herbert Bush opportunistically implemented its plans against the revolution on the Caribbean island. Its actions intensified, propped up by those who had taken refuge in Miami, and joined the ranks of the Central Intelligence Agency after the victory of January 1959. International terrorist Luis Posada Carriles lives in America as a fugitive of the Venezuelan judicial system for his crimes. That's the voice. In the year 1993, Percy Francisco Alvarado Godoy was recruited by the Cuban National Front. He was a resident in Cuba, and 1 year later in Guatemala, a collaborator of the state security.
Estando hospedado en el Hotel Camino Real.
I was staying at the Camino Real Hotel when I had the visit of two people. Counter-revolutionaries Luis Posada Carriles and Gaspar Jiménez Escobedo. These people trained me in the use of explosives.
Uno de los objetivos principales de este grupo.
One of the main objectives of this group was to create the impression that these actions originated in Cuba, with domestic opposition groups. The idea was to disrupt the national economy, to create social and political instability, to foster actions damaging to the Cuban economy, and to hurt tourism and the entire infrastructure required for the operation of the Cuban economy. The results of such actions would have been devastating. If placed in Tropicana, as I have been instructed to do, it would have caused the death of innocent people and tourists.
At the
same time, leaders of the Cuban American Foundation, outstanding CIA pupils, established the National Cuban Front, an underground cell and armed wing of the foundation, unleashing a wave of terror promoted, funded, and organized from the U.S. territory, applying the methods learned from imperialism, infiltration of armed people, pirate attacks, sabotage, and the setting of explosive devices. These resources made it to Central America, where notorious terrorist Luis Posada Carriles created a ring of Central American mercenaries. At the time, over 30 explosive devices were brought to Cuba, 18 of them in less than 1 year. Actually, 11 blew up in various tourist facilities, causing the deadly victim, Italian tourist Fabio Di Scelmo, several injured and extensive material damage. During this period, the same terrorists already known to the CIA and the FBI blew up bombs in Nassau, Mexico, and the American territory, mostly in Miami. The detention of terrorist Francisco Antonio Chávez Abarca confirms the leading role of the Cuban American Foundation and Posada Carriles in the terrorist activities against Cuba. The Cuban American National Foundation was established in 1981 on the interest of the U.S. administration. It was initially headed by Jorge Mascanosa, a CIA agent and a staunch Batista follower. The foundation, which organizes lobby groups to pressure the U.S. Congress against the Cuban Revolution on the initiative of major GOP ideologues interested in Cuba's annexation to the U.S., became a strategic instrument for political control in South Florida and to support terrorism on Cuba. Some of its main leaders have been tried in Miami courts under corruption, bribery, and other charges. After financial scandals and due to individual interests, it split in 2001 and another terrorist organization emerged, the Council for Cuba's Liberation, linked to such armed groups as Alpha 66 and Commandos F4, among others. The Council for Liberation dragged the most violent figures of the foundation, including Ninosca Pérez Castellón, Roberto Martín Pérez, Horacio Salvador García Cordero, and Luis Zúñiga Rey. San Salvador, Posada Carriles' next mission. A young 20-something was the choice. In his job at the mall truck workshops, they received an invitation to set up bombs in Cuba. In 1996, he was sent to Havana to study the grounds of his mission. Training started upon his return. They start to formally teach me how to make a bomb, how to assemble the pieces. April 12, 1997. A bomb explodes at the H discotheque of the Meliá Cohiba Hotel. It was the first in a series of terrorist actions against hotels carried out by the ring Luis Posada Carriles, put up in Central America, and funded by the Cuban American National Foundation. I'm already familiar with Havana, so I take note of the disco in the Meliá Cohiba Hotel. I think the name at that time was H. They set out the bomb for 99 hours and 15 minutes. So I get to the disco about 10 p.m. and go to the restroom. I'm carrying the bomb in my pocket and place it under the wash bowls. Then I spend some time at the counter. April 30, 1997. Specialized forces of the Ministry of the Interior managed to defuse an explosive round found on the 15th floor of the Meliá Cohiba Hotel. It was, I think, about 1.5 or 2 kilograms of explosive, plus calculator, an electronic device, a 9-volt battery, the detonators, a space inside the mines for the ink, and the explosive in the shoes. The calculator, the electronic devices, and the battery were exposed inside the luggage.
Salgo de viaje.
I leave, and this
Y en esa
time
ocasión se colocan la
the
bomba.
bombs are set, one in the Comodoro and the other in the Cohiba hotels. In early March 1997, 4 teenagers played in the garden of the Comodoro Hotel, taking a break from the International Chess Tournament, where they participated with 40 other children from throughout the country, and adults from Colombia, Venezuela, Costa Rica, and Peru. They found a white bag and played football with it. Then curiosity led them to opening the improvised ball. The calculator attracted their attention, and they pulled it apart from the plasticine attached to the metal tube, the battery, and an integrated circuit. Mere chance saved their lives.
Comodoro fue en el jardín.
At the Comodoro, I chose the garden bordering the sea.
La playa con el mar.
I leave the following day and returned to El Salvador, where I learned that the bomb did not explode. I received $200 for every blast.